Hello, my name is Ethan Stone, and I'm going to be discussing me and my group's created opening scene, from the decisions and choices to the mistakes that we made. Our film is titled Chuckles, and it is a mix of suspense and horror. We originally were going to use the name Barney, but we soon realized that Chuckles was a more catchy and horror themed name. Just about 3.5 months ago, me and my group members Zena Cerrone, Marie Gilliam, and Maya Seraphin started to undergo our creation of our 2-minute opening scene. The opening scene has to be an originally written and produced 2-minute opening film. After a week of thinking about what type of film we were trying to create and what type of meaning we were trying to display, we came up with a horror film. When we started, I honestly thought that this would be a simple and fast process to complete, but I was 100% wrong. Originally, we wanted to do an opening where the main character is the only person that is seeing the clown. But after we were almost done with everything, we realized that the message that we were trying to display wasn't coming across. We have to undergo many hours of research to construct our plan to what type of film we are creating. Honestly, because this is our first time being in a film for a serious reason, it is very notable to say that we are not talented at acting. Whenever we would try to film a shot, we would all start laughing, so it would take us about 15 to 20 minutes to get one shot. For an example, in these three shots, we had to refilm because we all started to laugh. After our initial opening scene, it got reviewed by some of our peers and our instructor, and they said that they couldn't recall the meaning. The next day, we decided to go back to the park and refilm our whole new opening to convey the meanings that we were trying to get across. We tried to insert a normal girl into a setting that was scary and unusual to show the audience that everything is not what it seems. The representation found within our opening is that Kathy or Xena doesn't see a clown, but the clown is always watching her, which you can see throughout these two shots. Falling in with common representation in horror films, the female is the victim while the male is the predator, which is the killer. As you can see in the red circles, the clown is lurking while the victim is clueless. One of the biggest inspirations was It. This film is a horror slash thriller like ours. We used the obvious clown costume, and we used the ideas that teens should be the ones that are stalked because they are typically clueless and vulnerable. Another film that we used for a small amount of inspiration was Scream 5 Preview, which is also what we took away from it was the killer was on the phone with one of his victims while he was stalking her at the same time. While we didn't go exactly with that, we got an idea that the clown should follow her throughout the scene. The last film that inspired us was Happy Death Day 2, which is a horror slash comedy. But the aspect that we took away was that the killer was always found her and always knew how to find her. Typically in horror films, the villain is usually the antagonist or the enemy of the film and is likely to be a monster slash clown slash serial killer or any type of killer. We decided to do a clown because it was affordable and an easy costume to presume as evil. The hero of the film, the protagonist, is typically a male. We went a little bit against convention by having our protagonist be a woman. This doesn't follow common convention because women are typically portrayed as weaker and more innocent. Our production company, Tattletale Productions, uses eerie music and scary shot of dolls. The production company is recognizable as a horror film because of the static nature and suspenseful feeling that the production company creates to make our viewer feel uncomfortable. We would most likely use Netflix, Hulu, and HBO Max to stream our movie because those are widely known streaming platforms that a lot of people use. We would most likely pay for ads on TikTok, YouTube, and television because all of them have a common convention of having teens on them always watching. Our target audience would be teens and adults because it's a horror film. That's usually what it's directed to. Teens should be the ages of 13 plus and not primarily for elderly because of the scary jump scenes. The technology that we used to film was the iPhone 12 and the iPhone X, which is the iPhone 10. We first used an iPhone X to get the base shots that we used for our first opening scene, but we later moved to an iPhone 12 for the second time that we did it. We used 1080p and used typically handheld shots. The softwares that we used to edit were CapCut, Studio Binder, and WeVideo. These these apps helped us a lot through the process of creating and editing our film. CapCut really helped us create our film and develop our production company title and the animation for our production company. Studio Binder helped us create a shot by shot of each shot, our shot by shot calendar, and dates for when we would film. WeVideo was the main editing tool that we used to edit and compose all of our shots. This is our shot by shot on Studio Binder. These are shooting schedules on Studio Binder. And this is us editing on WeVideo. Filmmaker. I can say that I've become a better filmmaker knowing how to edit, scriptwrite, storyboard, and do so much more. When I first started editing, it was very difficult for me to grasp it because it was a very new concept to me. All I knew about editing was how to zoom in and slow down the video and put the video in black and white. When storyboarding, it was a whole new concept that I had to overcome. So was script writing. These processes took about 3 days to figure out and complete. Typical conventions of horror films include dark lighting, extreme close-ups, scary costuming, handheld shots, suspenseful music, shadows, tense feelings, and make you on edge and make you feel paranoid, and usually includes violence. Our horror film used scary costumes, handheld shots, suspenseful music, kept you on the edge, and kept you tense. We tried to put our shots into perspective to show the clown in the background, even though it wasn't the main focus of each shot. We did this cleverly by putting it in each shot and showing that the clown was always watching Kathy. We inserted a normal girl into a scary setting to show a sense to the audience that everything is not what it seems. The clown continuously pops up in every scene to show the mystery of who and what the clown is. We decide to make our opening scene. When we decide to make our opening scene, we tried our best to incorporate things in typical horror films. This is an example of the clown being in this scene. When we tried to do in typical horror films, we knew that we weren't following a lot of typical inventions like extreme close-ups to show the emotion. But because Kathy didn't know the clown was there, and none of her friends knew either, Kathy didn't have any emotions towards the clown, but the clown would menacingly stand behind any cover to hide but still watch Kathy throughout every single shot. Our title. Our title is same thing as our production company. Scary, edgy music, suspenseful, and uses the dolls and static to make an unsurety. Considering this is my first time making an opening scene, it was strenuous because we were having trouble producing ideas. At the beginning of this project, I didn't know how to do anything because this was a new adventure, but gradually I started to learn about everything to do with media studies and the amount of work it really takes just to make one opening film. Now that I think about it, I really thought this was a simple task to do, but I realized that there's so much that goes into it with the mise en scene, sound, editing, and cinematography. The amount of research that we put into this was months, and we did months of practicing for this final project. It took about 3 months total to make our opening scene because of the immense amount of practicing and immense amount of research that we did. We came up with our idea in about a week and found our group. The people in my group were already in my class, and I was already previously friends with them. Our idea really came from it because that was the movie that we were raving about at the time. We did our scripting and storyboarding in 1 week. It took us about a week to learn it and then a week to actually do our storyboards and our script writing. It was honestly a nice experience to feel what real filmmakers do when they make their movies. We did our production and shooting schedule. This took about But our production calendar and shooting schedule was one of the easiest parts because we just had to set a time and date that we were going to commit to shooting our film. We filmed about 3 weeks and edited for 4 days. We had to refilm continuously because we weren't getting our point across and following true conventions. Although it did take 3 weeks, it was well worth it for the film in the end. And we edited for about 4 days. We had our individual edits, but our real edit took about 4 days. The end. I am leaving this course knowing how to become a better filmmaker and knowing how all the procedures it takes to create a film.